If you've been following my market commentary for a while, you'd understand the importance of population growth in driving demand for housing. Hi, I'm Michael Yardney, and in today's update, I want to have a chat with you about population. A few things that are related to population and what it means to you and me as property investors. Now, you're likely to find this update useful if you're currently a property investor or if you're considering getting involved in property investment. You see, the debate has been raging regarding the benefits or troubles of a big Australia. But many seem to be overlooking the fact that our population growth has already been slowing markedly in the last little while. If you've been following the trends, you'll know that the number of overseas arrivals in Australia has decreased substantially, with the latest Australian Bureau of Statistics figures showing that our population increased by 345,500 people in the year to last September. Now, this represents a growth rate of 1.6%. While that sounds a lot, and it is in long historical terms, it's really quite a sharp decline from the peak growth we had a couple of years earlier at 2.2%. Now, I'm going to explain what all this means to you and me as property investors, but before I do, I also want to just quickly remind you about my new book, What Every Property Investor Needs to Know About Finance, Tax and the Law. This book's a must-read for property investors, whether you're a beginner or experienced, because it's not how much money you make that matters, it's how much money you keep and how hard it actually works for you that's important. So we show you how to use the system to your advantage with the top finance, tax and legal experts, as well as myself, giving you advice on how you can become a top property investor. Click on the link below and you can get your own copy now. Okay, back to what's happening. Now, just recently, Sustainable Population Minister Tony Burke, who'd actually slaved for 12 months working on the government's new Sustainable Population Strategy, he commissioned panels, he accepted submissions, he took guidance. He recently released a report. And boy, was it a letdown. It didn't give us a target population. It didn't even give us a method of tracking the rate of population growth. He said something like, there are so many aspects of population growth, such as changing fertility, longevity, immigration, we can't accurately predict nor direct control. Well, look, no one asked for my opinion, and they probably wouldn't care what I have to say, but as I've said a number of times in these market updates, we're going to have to either populate or perish. Now, I'll explain why in a moment. But first, let's just have a look at something. You see, migration numbers are falling. The reason our population growth has slumped in the last couple of years is because of less people coming into Australia, decreased net overseas migration. Total new immigrant numbers fell for the year to last September by a massive 41% from the previous year. So, and when overseas migration accounted for 65% of our population growth, the remaining being natural population growth, that makes a huge difference. Having said that though, last year, of the 150,000 new households in Australia, 90,000 were still immigrant families, new people coming to settle into our country. So this indicates that our growth is still being driven much, much more by migration than natural population growth. But it also reveals that we're seeing less new arrivals due to our changing government policy. Now, by the way, we're actually still seeing as many of the new skilled migrants as ever. And interestingly, the recent budget increased the number of new skilled migrants we can have. But what has changed significantly is the drop in international students and dependents. And often they only stay for 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. Having said that, I've never really understood why these temporary residents have been included when counting our population growth. Anyway, with less population growth, what issues arise from this slowdown? Firstly, there's the economic impact of an increasing ageing population that will have to be sustained by a shrinking, younger workforce. Look, as baby boomers retire and leave the workforce, we need to encourage skilled migrants to come to Australia, firstly in order to keep our economy stable, by maintaining the government coffers, they're going to pay more taxes, and also by ensuring we have a population that can afford to spend money on local goods and services. Just look at the facts. Today, 43% of our workforce is made up of baby boomers. That's people in my generation born between 1945 and 1964. Over the next 15 years, Australia's 5.3 million baby boomers are going to reach retirement age. And as they leave the workforce, they're going to stop paying taxes, and many are going to go on to pension, and many are going to use our public health system. You see, baby boomers just don't have enough savings or superannuation to get them through retirement. This means some will have to keep working longer than they'd anticipated, but eventually they are going to have to retire, and this is going to place a massive burden on our financial system. The government's going to have to find money for their pensions and for their health costs, while at the same time making up for the lost taxation revenue. They can only do this in a couple of ways. Either they're going to increase taxes on a lot of people watching this video, and that's going to be political suicide, isn't it, on the younger generations, or they're going to have to increase the size of the tax-paying workforce. How do they do that? They're going to have to import younger workers from overseas. So despite the rhetoric from both sides of government, we have to significantly increase our population. If you want to see the alternative, just have a look at countries with ageing populations, like Japan, like Germany, and to some extent America. Of course, the strong population growth we're going to have to experience is going to bring some social and infrastructure issues. So I'm not advocating growth at any cost. We're going to have to find a way of encouraging sustainable growth, not only for our economy, but also for the health of our property markets. If immigration keeps slowing, that's going to negatively impact on our property markets, which in part have been buoyed up by this strong population and the need for accommodating it. One positive byproduct of our rapid population growth for property investors has been on rental demand and yields for investors. The immediate demand for rental accommodation created by these new migrants has contributed to our very low vacancy rates across almost all our capital cities. And it's also given investors the opportunity of increasing rents and enjoying growing returns. Many of our new migrants buy a home after living in Australia for a year or two, and there's a huge flow-on effect to the general economy when they do. I mean, think about it. They buy appliances, they buy furniture, they buy carpets, services for their new homes, and that boosts the local economy. So the bottom line is we need to encourage new residents to our shores and continue to welcome overseas migration as a way of not only sustaining our working population and our economy in the long term, but to ensure the security of our real estate markets as well. Now, we're going to have to find a way of coping with sustainable growth. Other countries in the world have, and so will we. So let's hope our government uses some of the spoils from our resources boom to upgrade our infrastructure to cope with this influx of new Australians. A growing population means a continuation of our prosperity and the retention of our reputation on the world stage as the lucky country for all Australians, not just for property investors. Now, as always, in future updates, I'm going to keep you informed on how you can take advantage of the property markets. But it's probably also timely to mention to you that there's no one like the independent, unbiased team of property investment strategists at Metropole who could help you to take advantage of our property markets. Remember, the multi-award winning team at Metropole have got no properties for sale, so their advice is independent, it's unbiased. If you want to find out a bit more about what's happening in your local market and what our research suggests is in store for you, why don't you just join us at a free property briefing in Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane? Click on the link below to find out more and reserve your place. Now, there's so much happening in property at the moment, I want to keep you updated with my regular short daily blog posts. So just click on the Michael's blog link on the top of this page. That's a different registration, different subscription to my fortnightly newsletter, and you're going to get my short daily updates. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week. This is Michael Yardney.